We send billions of emails every single day. They basically run our work lives, our personal lives, and yeah, sometimes our anxieties too. But the story of email, it doesn't start with some grand plan for connecting the world. Nope. It starts with a typo and a system crash. All right, take a look at this. This is it. The very first message ever sent over the ARPANET, which, was the network that eventually became the internet. It's not some deep philosophical quote. It's not a grand statement for all of humanity. It's just low. So, what does it even mean? Is it some kind of secret code, a programmer's inside joke, or maybe just someone trying to type hello who got cut off? Well, the real answer is actually way more human and honestly kind of funnier than you'd think. That first message, low, it wasn't really a message at all. It was a mistake. A ghost in the machine that accidentally became this huge landmark moment in the history of, well, everything digital. So picture this. It's late, 10:30 at night, in a lab at UCLA. A young student programmer named Charlie Klein is trying to do something that has literally never been done before. He's trying to log into a computer at Stanford, hundreds of miles away, over this brand new thing called the ARPANET. The command he needed to type was simple enough. Login. So he gets to it. He types the L, it works. He types the O, so far so good. And then, bam, the whole system just crashes. On the other end, at Stanford, all they received were those first two letters, L-O. And just like that, the first words on the internet were born, not out of genius, but out of a simple, totally relatable system failure. But you see, sending messages between computers, that was a problem people were trying to solve way before Klein's famous crash. Before you could send a message across a network, how did people share stuff on the same giant room-sized computer? Think of it like a digital filing cabinet. Back in the day of these massive time-sharing computers at places like MIT, you'd have tons of users all logging into the same central machine. If you wanted to leave a message for your colleague, you'd basically write a text file and just drop it into a shared public folder, hoping they'd find it the next time they logged on. The whole process was, well, it was clumsy. You'd log in, write your file, save it, and then just cross your fingers. There were no pop-up notifications, no inboxes, just a shared folder where digital notes kind of piled up. I mean, it worked, but it was anything but efficient. And get this, when some clever programmers at MIT created a mail command to make this process a little easier, the reaction from the higher-ups was basically disbelief. They saw sending simple messages as a complete and total waste of incredibly expensive computing power, a frivolous little game on a multi-million-dollar machine. Okay, so this brings us to the hero of our story, a guy named Ray Tomlinson. He was a programmer at BBN, the company that was hired to actually build the ARPANET. And here's the thing, he wasn't trying to invent a global communication system. He was just a curious engineer fiddling around trying to make his own job a little bit easier. Now, to really get his breakthrough, you have to understand something called RFCs, or requests for comments. These were basically the open source rulebook for the early internet. It was this collaborative space where engineers could propose and debate ideas for how this new network should work. And one of these proposals, RFC 196, was already talking about a mailbox protocol. The idea was out there, floating around. Tomlinson had already written this really useful little program called CPyNet. Its job was super simple. Copy a file from one computer to another over the ARPANET. That's piece number one of the puzzle. And the second piece? It came from that community discussion, that mailbox RFC. Someone had floated the idea of using the @ symbol as a way to separate a user's name from their host computer's name. User @ host. So simple, it's brilliant. And this is where Tomlinson's genius really kicks in. He took his own file copying program, CPyNet, and he mashed it together with that @ addressing idea. He tweaked the code so instead of just copying a file, it would send that file and stick it onto a specific mailbox file on another computer. He called the program SNDMSG, short for send message. And just like that, he had accidentally invented network email. So after the internet's first message was the accidental low, what profound, world-changing text did Ray Tomlinson choose for the world's very first network email? An email he sent from one computer to another one, sitting right next to it, by the way. The answer is he couldn't even remember. He said later that the test messages were entirely forgettable, probably just a random string of characters like QWRTUIOP. This wasn't some big, historic, one small step for man moment. It was just a programmer running a quick test on a little side project. But this little side project, this forgettable experiment, well, it did not stay forgotten for long. In fact, it was about to completely and totally take over the very network it was built on. Even Tomlinson himself was totally shocked by what happened next. He just thought he'd made a neat tool for his colleagues at BBN. He had absolutely no idea what he'd unleashed. His creation spread through that small community of ARPANET researchers like wildfire. By 1973, that's just 2 years after Tomlinson sent that first QWEIOP message, a study was done on all the traffic on the ARPANET, and the result was absolutely staggering. 75%. Let that sink in. This single number revealed an incredible truth. Email wasn't just an application running on the ARPANET. It had become the application. The network was designed for remote computing and file sharing, but what people really desperately wanted to do was talk to each other. Email was the internet's very first killer app. Okay, so email is a smash hit, but there was a big problem. Tomlinson's invention was really more of a clever hack than a robust system. As more and more different kinds of computers started joining the network, they all needed to be able to speak the same email language. It was kind of the Wild West. So that same community of engineers came together again to create a universal standard. The result was SMTP, the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. It laid out the common set of rules for sending email, a foundation that, believe it or not, we still use today. Later on, other protocols like POP3 and IMAP came along to handle the receiving side of things. And that's really the whole journey in a nutshell. It starts in '71 with a forgotten test message. Within just 2 years, it completely dominates the network. A decade later, it gets standardized. And by 1989, it's not just some techie tool anymore. It's an official word in the English language. The story of email is just such a powerful reminder that some of the most world-changing technologies don't come from some grand top-down plan. They come from a small, clever solution to a simple problem. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What little hack being built in a programmer's lab today is going to accidentally become the next thing we can't imagine living without tomorrow?